The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Kashif Kamran, and I welcome you all to the Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass webinar for December 2020 exams being organized by ACCA Pakistan. Just before starting on with the day one proceedings, I would just like to confirm that all of you can hear me, right? Okay, that's wonderful, right? So I am starting on with the day one proceedings. This is the webinar for December 2020 exams, and a very interesting webinar because it aims at how you should pass the December 2020 exams. So let's formally start on with the webinar. Okay, now first of all, I would like to introduce my tutor profile with all of you. And in terms of my tutor profile, I am Kashif Kamran, a fellow chartered certified accountant. In terms of my experience of teaching, it's been more than 13 years since I am teaching the ACCA qualification, and my specialization is in the AA paper and the AAA paper alongside the SBL paper. I am currently associated with PAC College in Lahore, Pakistan, which is a gold approved learning provider. And I am also associated with the Bani School of Accountancy, which is a platinum approved learning provider in Karachi, Pakistan. This will be my 10th AAA Practice to Pass webinar. And I'm really excited for that because it gives me an opportunity to keep it different from my previous webinar. My students in the previous exam sittings to AAA have scored numerous nationwide positions and global positions from Pakistan and other countries. And I'm also a registered mentor for Oxford Brookes University Research Project. Now, that is my tutor profile, and I try my best to bring all my experience together to give you another wonderful webinar this time. So let's start on with the proceedings. Okay, now just before starting with the agenda for day one, another confirmation. I hope all of you can hear me and my voice is going through to all of you. Okay, that's so great, right? So let's start on, and let's start focusing on the agenda for the day one. Okay, now how can you reach me? If you have any queries, you have any questions, and you want to contact me and you want to reach me, you can follow me on my YouTube channel. You can see the link of that in front of your screen. You can follow me on my Facebook page as well, or you can email me at kashifkamran@gmail.com. So in terms of any queries you have, right? And you can be part of my WhatsApp students group. Already a lot of students have joined the WhatsApp group. If anyone is still not part of the WhatsApp group, you will be provided with the link to join during the live session today. Okay, now the objective of this Practice to Pass webinar, the objective is to provide you the right direction to pass the AAA exams and to bring you closer to the examiner mindset. Now, this is very, very important. A lot of time, the students who are preparing for the AAA paper do not have the right direction to pass the AAA exams, and they are not even aware of the examiner mindset. So they're very far away from the examiner mindset, which causes the failure in the AAA paper. The second objective is to these sessions over the next 5 days. These sessions over the next 5 days will be a mind opener for all of you as they provide you the right tips and techniques to control the AAA paper and the right way to practice. So I hope you're all waiting for those right tips, the right techniques to control your AAA paper and the right way to practice. The focus on the right is very important because a lot of time you don't have the right tips, you don't have the right techniques, or you don't have the right way to practice. Further, this practice to pass webinar will also mitigate your misconceptions and myths around the AAA paper. So let's start the journey to give you the right direction. So many times I've seen students have so many misconceptions about the AAA paper, and they go to the exam hall with the same misconceptions and myths. So this webinar will also be mitigating the misconceptions and myths around the AAA paper. So this webinar will really be bringing you closer to success in December exams if you follow the guidance of the tutor very carefully. Okay, now moving on towards the pass rates of recent settings. Just one confirmation. I hope you can see the screen sharing, right? You can see the slides moving in front of the screen, and currently you can see the pass rates, right? And I hope my voice is audible, clear to all of you. Right, thank you. If anyone is facing any problems, you can log out and log in so that you can hear me clearly. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on. Okay, now if you look at the pass rates of the last 6 exam sittings from June 19 to September 20, you know that the AAA passing rate on average is like 32%. So 32% is a very common number or a very average number of students passing the AAA paper in the very first attempt. There was an exceptional passing rate, 36%. That was in September 19. But otherwise than that, the passing rate is just hovering around 32, 33%. So you cannot just take the optimism of 36%, but you need to look at the other numbers on your screen, which is just hovering around 31, 30, and in the last sitting, just around 33%. So it's a challenging paper, right? And being a challenging paper, you need to assure that you put in the right efforts and you put the efforts in the right direction to pass this particular paper. Now the agenda. This webinar for December 2020 exams being organized by ACCA Pakistan is split over 5 days. Today is the day 1 and followed by 4 more days to come. On the day 1, I will be looking at the right strategy and I will be focusing on the March 2020 paper. On the day 2, tomorrow, I will be focusing on the business risk particularly and the risk of material misstatement alongside. On the day 3, I will be focusing on ethical, professional, and quality control issues with a very different perspective. On the day 4, I will be looking at a new area which I would be focusing on perhaps for the first time in my webinar known as practice management. And you will all be interested in that. And on the day 5, I'll come back with audit reporting. So this is the agenda. So you can plan your day before you enter the webinar. You exactly know what is the agenda on a daily basis so that you can plan it in a very effective manner. Now, it is a very big challenge for me to keep this webinar different from my previous webinars because this is my 10th webinar with ACCA and this is my 10th AAA webinar. So it gives me immense challenge to keep it different from my previous webinar because there is a load of library available of my previous webinars on the ACCA Pakistan channel on Vimeo. So moving on towards the day 1. Moving on towards the day 1. The day 1 is about the right strategy for AAA and the March 2020 paper. Now, I thought it is very, very important to discuss with all of you the right strategy for AAA and to also discuss with you the latest paper available, which is the March 2020 paper, because the other papers which happened in the July and then in September are not yet available on the ACCA website. So the latest paper available is the March 2020 paper, which I will be discussing with you. Okay, now the very first thing I would like to discuss with you is the syllabus. So if any one of you is giving the AAA for the very first time, you should have an idea about your syllabus and you should ensure that you have covered the entire syllabus before you enter the exam hall on the 7th of December. The syllabus is divided into 7 syllabus areas. The syllabus area A, which is about regulatory environment. The syllabus area B, which is about ethical and professional matters. The syllabus area C, which is about quality control and practice management. The syllabus area D, which is about planning. Syllabus area E is about completion, review, and reporting. Syllabus area F is about other assignments, and the syllabus area G is about current issues. Now, how do they come in your 100 marks paper? If you look at the first 4 syllabus areas, A, B, C, D, and you look at the section A of your exam paper. Now we know the section A of your exam paper consists of 150 marks question, and the section A is very, very important because it consists of 150 marks question. And in terms of the section A, the syllabus area A, the syllabus area B, the syllabus area C, and the syllabus area D will be tested in a question 1 case study. But having said that, look at the note number. The note tells you something very important. The note tells you that the syllabus area A, B, C can also be tested in question 2 or question 3. So the syllabus area A, B, and C, they can also be tested in the question 2 or question 3. But alongside that, you can find the syllabus area A, B, C, D in the section A. Now that also means that the syllabus area D, this one, the planning, is a regular feature of the section A. So syllabus area D is must in section A, right? You cannot find a section A question without the syllabus area D. But the other syllabus areas, A, B, C, they can be in the section A and they can also be in the section B as well, right? Simultaneously, you might get them in section A and simultaneously, you might get them in section B as well. So regulatory environment can come in the question number 1. It can also come in the section B. Ethical and professional issues can come in the question number 1. They can also come into the question number 2 or 3. So is with the quality control and practice management. They can come in the section A. They can also come in the section B. But planning is an area which will only come in section A. It cannot come in section B. So that is a very static area of your syllabus. Now, when you look at the section B consists of syllabus area E and F, and E and F will only be tested in question 2 and 3. So you cannot find the syllabus area E coming in section A, never. Syllabus area F coming in section A, never. Syllabus area E and F will only be tested in question 2 and 3. We know that syllabus area E comes in question number 2 and syllabus area F comes in question number 3. Now that has been a very static practice of your examiner or a very consistent practice of the AAA examiner, putting the question number 2 at the stage of completion and reporting and putting the question number 3 for other assignments. But other assignments is not a regular feature. You might find that in a certain exam setting, the other assignments will not come and the examiner can replace other assignments with syllabus area A, B, and C. But that's how your question paper looks like. So the dominating question 1 consists of planning. The question number 2 consists of completion and reporting. And the question number 3 mostly consists of other assignments. Now that's how the paper looks like. The syllabus area G is about current issues, and current issues can be tested anywhere in the paper. Now, we know current issues only come in the AAA paper when the examiner sets an article. The last time the examiner sets an article on current issue was data analytics, and data analytics was examined in the last exam sitting, which was September 2020. And a 5 marks question came in September 2020 paper testing students' knowledge on data analytics. So far for the December exams, there is no current issue because examiner has not yet written any article on current issue, which we can consider as important for students appearing in December exams. So for December exam students, so far, so forth, there is no article on current issues. So you can be relaxed and you can just focus on syllabus area A, B, C, D, E, and F. I hope that's clear to all of you, right? So no current issues, so far, so forth. So you can be relaxed on the syllabus area G, and you just need to focus on 6 syllabus areas, A, B, C, D, E, F. I hope that's clear to all of you. If I can quickly find your answers. Is that clear to all of you? No current issues this time, right? Okay, that's great. So again, it's too early to predict what can come in December exams, but we'll see if we can do something in the last day of the webinar about what can be the likely topics for December exams. But again, that's something very unprofessional to pick and predict expected topics. But still, we can do some analysis on that on the day 5. Today is the day 1, so we are not predicting anything. We are just focusing on how to pass the AAA paper. So let's proceed on with this with further aspects of day 1. I hope all of you are clear on the syllabus and all of you know the syllabus, right? Because that's very, very essential that you complete the 100% syllabus before you enter the exam hall. Now, moving away from the syllabus and moving away from the paper format, before I discuss more things with you, let's look at the question analysis, which is very, very important. You know your paper consists of 3 questions, right? And all 3 questions are compulsory. But have you ever wondered about your questions? Have you ever wondered about how the question comes in the AAA paper? Have you ever done a question analysis yourself? Now, I thought it's very important that in this webinar, I also do a question analysis with you. Now, when I look at the first question, which is of 50 marks, right? And you know this first question of 50 marks is set at the stage of planning. That is why the syllabus area D is a very important syllabus area, which comes in question number 1. So the question number 1 is set at the stage of planning, and that makes the syllabus area D very, very important. Now, when you look at the question number 1 for 50 marks, it is divided into 2 parts. 1, 4 professional marks, and then 46 technical marks. So the 50 marks is broken into 2 parts, 4 professional marks and 46 technical marks. Now, when you look at the professional marks, you know that the professional marks is for a briefing note. And in the first question, you need to answer your question in a format of a briefing note. So you should all know the format of the briefing note, and you should all know how to answer a question using a format of a briefing note, because you have 4 professional marks around briefing notes, and you should secure your 4 professional marks. And in my previous webinar, I have guided a lot about briefing note. I've guided a lot about how to write a briefing note and even the format of the briefing note. Now, when you look at the 46 technical marks you have in the question number 1, the 46 technical marks in the question number 1 consist of risk assessment. We know the most of the marks out of 46 is on risk assessment. risk assessment is an integral part of the question number one. You cannot find a question number one without risk assessment. And ideally, out of the 46 marks, on average, 20 to 24 marks are allocated on risk assessment. So that is such an important part of the 46 marks. Now, beside risk assessment, what other topics comes in 46 marks? Ethical and professional matter, a very regular feature of 46 marks. It is not something which comes on a consistent basis, but you will find ethical and professional issues in like 4 exam settings out of 5. 4 exam settings out of 5. So it is quite a regular feature, right? It's not something integral like risk assessment, but it is quite a regular feature. On average, whenever ethical and professional matters comes in the question number one, the average is minimum 6 to maximum 10 marks. Then another area, audit procedure, just like ethical and professional issues, 4 out of 5 exam settings. 4 out of 5 exam settings. In the recent past papers, since September 18 exams, I think since September 18 exams, procedures have come in almost every single exam setting. Even the procedure came in the last exam paper, September 2020. Procedures is a regular feature of your 46 marks. And on average, you find procedures from a minimum 5 marks to a maximum 10 marks in the past paper, in the first question. Then, more importantly, the area of practice management have started to come more recently. Now, if you look at the recent papers since September 18, if you look at the recent papers from September 18 to March 20, because the other papers after March 20 are not published, but practice management have become a very regular feature of recent papers. An examiner is very keenly asking practice management for something like 6 to 10 marks. And even in the last exam, September 20, the feedback I got from the student, because the paper is not published, the student did provided me a feedback that there was a 10 marks question on practice management even in the last exam paper, September 2020. So examiner is quite keenly focusing on practice management. And that is the reason I have included practice management in my webinar this time, and I will be focusing on practice management on the day 4 of my webinar. So you will all be anxiously waiting for that. So look at the breakup of the 46 marks. Risk assessment is an integral part, so that is the reason I put that in black. Then you have ethical and professional matters in the first question on a very regular basis, not very integral, but on a very regular basis. Audit procedures also come on a regular basis, and practice management has started to come in recent papers on a more regular basis. Apart from that, examiner can also test knowledge. Knowledge like money laundering, knowledge like fraud, knowledge like professional skepticism, knowledge like joint audit. What are advantages of joint audit? Or what are auditor responsibilities for fraud? Or what is the auditor responsibility for maintaining professional skepticism in the audit? So the examiner can test your knowledge, which is basically the syllabus area A. So you should be mentally present for syllabus area A, and on average 4 to 6 marks. 4 to 6 marks are allocated in the question number 1 at times on knowledge. I think in the March 2020 paper, examiner asked for joint audit, the advantages and disadvantages. So this is the breakup. So I hope you're all becoming comfortable with the breakup of the first question. Such a diversified question, right? So do you all agree this is a very diversified question of the paper? Is that true, everyone? Waiting for your answers. So is it a diversified question? Right, a very diversified question. So should you all know the types of topics which comes in question one? Will that really help you to prepare yourself in a better manner for the question number one? Right, so the syllabus area A is knowledge testing, right? So you should explore the syllabus area A. So you should have a better idea of what comes in knowledge, right? So let's move on to the question number 2. Now the question number 2, the question number 2 of the exam paper, AAA, is a question for 25 marks. And this question is set at the stage of completion, review, and reporting. Right, so question number 2 is set at the stage of completion and reporting. Just like the question number 1 was set at the planning stage, the question number 2 by default is set at the stage of completion and reporting. So you should know the topics which comes at the stage of completion and reporting in order to be better prepared for the question number 2. Now, the question number 2, because it's set at the stage of completion and reporting, it includes topics like evidence, because evidence is something which is performed at the stage of review. The manager review your working papers for evidence, and the manager reviews the working paper whether you have gathered sufficient appropriate audit evidence or not. So evidence is a very typical question which comes at the stage of question number 2, because it's something assessed at the stage of completion. In the September 2020 exams, the question number 2 consists of evidence. Ethical and professional matters. So ethical and professional matters can come back in question number 2. They can be in question number 1, they can be in question number 2, right? So ethical and professional matters is a very regular feature of your 100 marks paper. You cannot have a fear factor of ethical and professional matters. The more you run away from ethical and professional matter, you are making your life risky for AAA. You should be very good at ethical and professional matters wherever they come in the 100 marks paper. So can you find ethical and professional matters in the question number 2? Yes. Quality control matters. You will never find quality control matters in the question number 1, because quality control is something you do at the stage of completion. Quality control is something you do at the stage of review. So you will never find quality control coming in the question number 1. You can find ethical and professional issues in question number 1, right? But the quality control matters can either come in question 2, or they can either come in question number 3. Going concern. Such an important activity which happens at the stage of reporting, such an important activity which happens at the stage of review. So a question on going concern. And for your exams coming up in December, going concern is very, very important. And I will spend time on it on day 5. So when I conduct the day 5 of the webinar, I will be spending a careful time on going concern, right? So please note, going concern is very, very important for the upcoming exams in December 2020. Is that clear to all of you? Have you noted it down? Okay, that's great. And apart from going concern, communication to those charged with governance. We have seen that since September 18 exams, right? Since September 18 exams, communication to those charged with governance have come once. And I would still consider this as very, very important for December exams. So also mark this as very, very important. Communication to those charged with governance. We'll spend some time on this as well on the day 5 of my webinar, right? So communication to those charged with governance has been feature of your past paper just once since September 18. And then finally, a very typical question on audit report. Audit report is an integral part of the question number 2, right? You might find audit report for less marks or more marks. So just like risk is an integral part of the question number 1, right? In the same manner, audit report is an integral part, right? Audit report is an integral part of the question number 2. So can you look at the picture of question number 2, everyone? So anything which comes at the stage of completion, review, and reporting has been a regular feature of the past papers in terms of question number 2. So if you practice variety of question number 2s, you will find more and less these topics in the past papers, right? Okay, and during the webinar, if you have asked any question and the tutor has not responded to your question because the tutor is more focused in delivering the webinar, so you can raise that same question in the WhatsApp group so that the tutor can reply to your query over the next 1 or 2 days, right? Okay, so the question number 2, is everyone clear with the question number 2? And is everyone clear with the diversity of the question number 2? Okay, that's great. Now moving on towards the question number 3. Now, the question number 3 of the paper. Now, the question number 1 was set at the stage of planning. Wonderful. The question number 2 was set at the stage of completion, review, and reporting. That's wonderful. Now, the question number 3, the audit has ended. Planning, reporting. The cycle of audit has ended, right? So, when the cycle of audit has ended, where will the examiner put the question 3? And the question 3 of the AAA paper becomes a more open question in the AAA paper. It's at an unspecified stage. So the question number 3 has no stage, right? Planning stage, question number 1. Completion stage, question number 2. But the question number 3 is at an unspecified stage, and it's the open question in AAA paper. I always tell students that the question number 3 is an open question in AAA paper. But is there any pattern which your AAA examiner follow in terms of question 3? The answer to that is yes. Now, if you look at the past papers since September 18, when the paper format was changed. So since September 18, if you look at the question number 3, you will find consistency in your examiner approach. Let's see what comes in question 3. Other assignments. This is the most integral part of question number 3. This is a syllabus area F, right? I was just telling you just a couple of minutes ago that syllabus area F comes in question number 3, other assignments. A question on forensic audit, a question on due diligence, a question on prospective financial information. They have been a very common feature of your past papers in question 3. If you spend time on question 3 from September 18, you will find review of prospective financial information. You will find due diligence. You will find forensic audit. So quite a regular feature of question number 3 is other assignments, syllabus area F. So you need to consider that as a very, very integral part. Beside other assignments, in the question number 3, you can find ethical and professional matters. So see, they're not leaving you. They can be in question number 1, they can be in question number 2, they can still be in question number 3. Quality control matters. They can be in question number 2, they can be in question number 3. Knowledge areas like professional skepticism, like money laundering, like fraud, like auditor liability, like opening balances. So the knowledge areas, using the work of others. So any knowledge area, right, can be part of the question number 3. But other assignments is a more important topic which comes in question number 3. So is everyone clear with the boundaries of question 3? So is this question analysis helping you? So has this question analysis helped you? Right, so knowledge areas can come in question number 1 as well, and the knowledge areas can come in question 3 as well. And so you should be very good on the syllabus area A. So please ensure that your exam papers from September 18, you should solve each one of them. You cannot skip any past paper from September 18 onwards. So every past paper from September 18 onwards, you should solve it. So you have a very good idea of what comes in question number 1, what comes in question number 2, and what comes in question number 3. So please have a careful question analysis. These presentation slides are already with you in the handout sections. You can download them from the handout sections so that you can take a printout of them and maintain a very proper file as you prepare yourself for exams in December 2020. So this presentation will help you when you do the past papers. Okay, now moving away from the question analysis, My previous AAA practice to pass. I hope you all know this is my 10th webinar. And before this webinar, I have conducted 9 consecutive webinars for ACCA for AAA. I started my journey for the AAA webinars in March 18, and till March 20, I consecutively conducted 9 webinars. Now, there is a load of libraries which you can access. There is so much you can explore from my previous webinar, because in 15 hours, you have limitation. You cannot deliver everything, right? But you have to deliver the most important things. You have to deliver the more important aspects of AAA, which can help students to pass. So you should explore my previous AAA practice to pass sessions. You can reach ACCA Pakistan previous webinar on their Vimeo channel. And this is the link of their Vimeo channel in front of your screen. And I would personally recommend all of you to at least watch the following webinars. I would prefer that you watch these 4 webinars minimum. My March 20 webinar, my December 19 webinar, my September 2019 webinar, and my June 2019 webinar, right? So please ensure that you watch these 4 minimum webinars. Have you all noted that down? So because this is a very frequently asked question by a lot of students, which webinar we should follow, which webinar we should listen. So at least 4 minimum webinars: March 20, December 19, September 19, and June 19. You can go to the vimeo.com and vimeo.com/ACC Pakistan. You will find all the previous webinars there, and you can watch these previous webinars, so it can give you better understanding, better knowledge of the areas which we are not covering in this webinar. So if you watch the previous 4 webinars, every webinar is of 15 hours. So 15 multiplied by 4, that makes it 60 hours. And 60 hours plus the 15 hours of this webinar, that's 75 hours. Now, these 75 hours can be a game changer for you as you prepare for exams in December 2020. So will all of you be going to the ACCA Pakistan channel on Vimeo and exploring these webinars if you have not yet watched them? And if you have watched them, that's wonderful, right? If you haven't, please do watch it, because this is a frequently asked question by students, which webinar we should follow. So I would prefer my 4 previous webinars, right? And with those 4 previous webinars, follow this one, because this webinar is more focused towards December exams, right? Okay, so these are the previous webinars. I just want to show you one thing right here. If you go to the ACCA channel on Vimeo, which you can see right in front of your screen now, right? This is vimeo.com/ACCA Pakistan, right? So when you go to this panel, this particular link, if I can just put that link to all of you, right? Have all of you got this link? Vimeo.com/ACCA Pakistan. You can click on this link and you will reach this page, which you can see in front. Now, when you come here, see what you can find here. You can find the showcases. Can all of you see the showcases on the left-hand side of the screen? Right, so you can go to the showcases, and in the showcases, see, you can find all the previous webinars. See, you can find on your screen the March 2020 webinar, then you can find the December 19 webinar, the September 19 webinar, and the June 19 webinar. So you can explore these webinars, right? And obviously ACCA has already given you access to these previous webinars through the email once you had registered with ACCA for this particular webinar. Okay, back to my presentation. So a minimum of 4 webinars to watch, which can be really insightful and help you down with preparing yourself for December 2020 exams. Okay, moving on. Practice to pass December 2020, finally. So we've spent time on the question analysis. We spent time on which previous webinars you should be following, and we spent time on a syllabus perspective of AAA. Now that's bringing us to the agenda, and that's bringing us to the agenda of the Practice to Pass for December 2020. Okay, my first perspective of December 2020 webinar is to keep it different from my previous webinar. And that is a big challenge for me because I know I've conducted 9 webinars and the students can access those 9 webinars. So I need to be very different in this webinar, and I need to speak of different areas in this webinar, or I need to guide you about the same areas in a very different manner in this webinar so you have interest in this webinar. So you need to watch this webinar alongside the previous webinars, right? Because this webinar is aimed at the December 2020 exams to focus on giving you all different practice and a different webinar. So this can add support when combined with the previous webinar. So I would assure we get through a different practice this time. And so this looks like a different webinar. And when you combine this webinar with the previous one, you get some extra quality. To set the right strategy for you to pass AAA. This is my most focal part of this webinar. And on the day one today, this is my most focal part. I need to give you the right strategy to pass AAA paper because I see students struggling with AAA paper. I see students not passing the AAA paper, and I believe there is a lack of strategy. So if you get the right strategy, you still have 1 month. You still have like 5 weeks from now. You have 5 weeks to prepare, and 5 weeks is not a bad time. 5 weeks is really, really a good time for you to come on track and pass your AAA paper. So I need to set a strategy for 5 weeks, which can really help you if implemented by all of you. And if you implement it, you will be successful. So that is my most focal part, which I will just be coming shortly on to. So let's start, right? Let's start with the December 2020 webinar. Let's set the right strategy for all of you to pass the AAA paper, because that's the reason you're all into this day one webinar. Okay, the right strategy for December 2020 exams. I hope you're all eagerly waiting for that, right? You want me to spell out the right strategy for December 2020? Are you all eagerly waiting for that? 5 weeks away from exams, and 5 weeks away from the exams, you should know the right strategy, right, for being successful in your upcoming exams in December 2020, right? Okay, let's start on with the right strategy for December 2020. After the end of this webinar, you will have a month before exams, and it is a very good time for you to implement the strategy of this webinar. This webinar ends on the 7th of November, and you have your exams on 7th of December. So you will have a month after this webinar gets over, and that is plenty of time if you can set the right strategy and you can implement the strategy which will be given to you by your tutor in this webinar. So plenty of time, right? And you need to formulate the right strategy. The right strategy has to focus on 2 very important aspects. Number 1, knowledge. Number 2, practice. If you want to pass AAA paper, you need to set a strategy. But the strategy has to focus on 2 things. Number 1, knowledge. Number 2, practice. And if you make a strategy for these 2, you will ultimately be successful. And that's what all of you are aiming for. So let's see what is the right strategy for knowledge and what is the right strategy for practice. Knowledge. In terms of knowledge, knowing the full syllabus. See, you cannot have an excuse. Syllabus area A, syllabus area B, syllabus area C, syllabus area D, syllabus area E, and syllabus area F. Knowing the full syllabus. You cannot say, I'll do a selective study. No, you cannot do a selective study, right? I know the time is less now, but you had time. You had time. Either you wasted it or you utilized it. But you cannot have an excuse that I will go to the AAA exam hall with an incomplete syllabus. No, you should go with the full syllabus. So if you think the time has run out for the full syllabus, then you need to find some selective studies. But still, I will never prefer selective studies over full syllabus. You should go with full syllabus because you never know the mindset of the examiner. What will the examiner ask for? Sources of attaining knowledge. What sources of attaining knowledge you should be using? Are there any recommendable textbooks? What to revise? How to revise? Is there any need to retain or rote learn? Do you believe these questions in front of the screen are the questions which are coming out of your mindset? I try to create questions reading the mindset of the student. Do you all agree with these questions? Sources of attaining knowledge? Question mark. Any recommendable textbooks? Question mark. What to revise? How to revise? Is there any need to retain something? Is there any need to rote learn something? Do you all agree these are perspectives of students? So we should find answers to them, right? We should find answers so we are better prepared. So I'll be giving you answers to all these questions, right? That what are sources of attaining knowledge? Are there any recommendable textbooks? What to revise? How to revise? To me, the best source of attaining knowledge is the articles. Best source of attaining knowledge. You should spend careful time on examiner articles. Have you ever bothered about that? Let me show you the best source of taking knowledge. I would not prefer textbook. I would not prefer textbooks at all. I would prefer that you download the articles, take a printout of the articles and read them. Yes, in an area where there is no article, you have to read the textbook. But if in an area you have an article, I would not prefer book over article. I would prefer article over book. Is everyone clear on that? So you all see this ACCA website, right? Perhaps every day. You all know this ACCA website, right? Where you have the AAA paper. Now, when you go to this website for advanced audit and assurance, which is right in front of your screen, right? I've just shared the hyperlink with all of you. This is the website for advanced audit and assurance. And when you scroll down this website, all of you can see the technical articles. Can all of you see the technical articles? You click on the technical articles, right? And you reach the page of technical articles. This is the page of technical articles. And to me, this technical article page should take precedence over the book. Should take precedence over the book. I have shared the hyperlink of the article page with all of you, right? To me, the technical articles should take precedence over the book because technical articles is the mindset of the examiner. And what will come in the exam paper? In the exam paper, will you get the mindset of the BPP book? Or in the exam paper, will you get the mindset of the examiner? What should be the answer? Is exam paper a reflection of the BPP book or is exam paper a reflection of the examiner mindset? So what is the source of knowledge? Do you believe articles should take precedence over the book? Where possible? Where possible? But yes, if the examiner has not written an article, then what will I do? I should read the book. So am I saying no books? Right? Am I saying no books? No, I'm saying where there is no article, go to books. But where there is article, no books. Right? Now see these articles. I have always preferred, if you have listened to my previous webinars as well, I've always preferred the first 5 articles as the most important one because these first 5 articles are exam technique articles. Look at the first 5 articles on your screen. Can you see part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5? Can all of you read that? Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. This is one block of articles, right? And these are all exam technique articles. These are all exam technique articles, right? Look at this first block. Look at this first block from here to here. Can all of you see this block? Look at the focus of this block. The focus of this block is technique, 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 technique. So what is this article guiding you about? This article is guiding you about how to write a good answer for ethics, how to write a good answer for risk, how to write a good answer for accounting issues, how to write a good answer for audit procedure, how to write a good answer for reporting. So is these articles focused on techniques, how to write an answer? Now you cannot have a lame excuse, I don't know how to write a reporting answer. You cannot have a lame excuse, I don't know how to write a procedure answer. Probably you have not read the article. If you're still writing a wrong procedure, that means you have not read the article seriously. If you're still doing blunders in the reporting question, that means you have not read the article on reporting carefully. If you're still doing blunder in writing the ethics answer, that means you still not have read the article on ethics carefully. So will all of you be making a habit of downloading this first block of articles? And what is the focus of the first block of articles? Techniques. So is the examiner guiding you about techniques? Yes, right? So the very first thing you should focus on is techniques. 5 techniques article. Okay, let's move on. Okay, now after the 5 techniques article, scroll down. Can you look at the next article? Data analytics and the auditor. You should still read it, but considering it came in September 20 exams, I would not give it a value for December 20 exams. You can still read this article in the last, right? You can still read this article in the last. Let's put this article to be read in the last. So you can still read this article in the last. But look at the other articles. Can you see audit in a specialized industry? Read it. Can you see an article on accounting estimates? We know accounting estimates is such a good part of AAA paper. You should know about the risk in accounting estimates. You should know what audit procedures can you formulate on accounting estimates. So you should know accounting estimates as such an important area of the AAA exam. You can get accounting estimates in a risk question. You can get accounting estimates when you're writing a procedure, right? So can you ignore accounting estimates? So accounting estimates is a must. Evaluation of misstatements. This is such a good article which tells you how the auditor evaluates misstatement. This is a very good article at the stage of reporting. This is a good article at the stage of reporting. You should read this. Responding to non-compliance. This is knowledge. A lot of students ask me, how should we prepare knowledge? This is knowledge, right? Syllabus area A, nuclear, non-compliance with laws and regulations. So should you have knowledge about the auditor responsibility for non-compliance? What is the auditor responsibility for non-compliance with laws and regulations? So nuclear is such a wonderful article. Corporate governance and its impact on audit practices. How corporate governance impacts audit. What is the role of the audit committee? What if you go to the December exam and in the December exam there is a 6 marks question asking you what is the role of the audit committee? And you're shocked. You say, from where this topic came into my exam paper? And one of your friends tell you, I read this article and I know the role of the audit committee. So rather than regretting yourself once you come out of the exam hall, it's better you read the article. So will you be reading these articles, corporate governance and its impact on audit? So should you know the role of the audit committee? So how many articles have I recommended you so far? Audit in a specialized industry 1, accounting estimates 2, audit in a specialized industry 1, accounting estimates 2, evaluation of misstatement 3, responding to nuclear 4, corporate governance and its impact on audit 5. And you go down. Still not the end of the story. And you scroll down. Look at the other articles now on your screen. Auditing disclosures. Do you believe disclosures is such an important area? Can disclosures be part of the risk question? Do you believe disclosures can be risk of material misstatement? Can there be a risk of material misstatement in a disclosure? Can the examiner ask you to write procedures on disclosures? So should you know disclosures in terms of risk? And should you know disclosures in terms of procedures? So can you skip this article on disclosures, number 6th? You should be reading it, right? Look at the number 7th article on your screen. Performance information in public sector. Such an important area in question number 3. Performance information in public sector. Question number 3. Other assignments. Syllabus area F. What if in December exams you get a question on performance information? We have seen performance information coming in past papers, but not in very recent past, in the earlier past. But performance information is a syllabus area. Look at the other areas, laws and regulations. Should you know what is the auditor responsibility for laws and regulations? So what if a question comes in the exam paper, explain the management and auditor responsibilities for laws and regulation, 4 marks. Rather than losing these 4 marks, you should know the article. Then the next article, audit quality, a perpetual current issue. Should you know about audit quality? Do you believe audit quality is a very regular feature of question number 2 and question number 3? Professional skepticism and another knowledge area. A lot of time examiner asks you professional skepticism. What if the examiner asks you, what is the importance of professional skepticism? Explain the importance of professional skepticism in planning the audit. And you are shocked, you are blank. Please ensure you read these articles, because these articles are not just providing you knowledge, these articles are also preparing you for exams in December 2020. If you are reading the book, I would prefer hold the book, and from tomorrow, start reading articles. Once the articles are completed, judge yourself, analyze yourself, and see, is there a need to read book, and in which areas you should read books. Right? Moving towards the last of the articles now. Look at the other articles. Using the work of internal auditor, such an important article. Should you know how the auditor used the work of internal auditor? Should you know how the auditor evaluated the independence of internal auditor, the competence of internal auditor, the experience of internal auditor? I hope you all know the prerequisites, right? The prerequisites of using the work of internal auditors. So should you read this article to know how the auditor used the work of internal auditors? This is basically the F8 knowledge. This is basically the AA knowledge. Do all of you agree with me? Do all of you agree with me that you should know the internal audit and how the external auditor used the work of internal auditor? Auditor liability. Since much longer now, we have not seen a question on auditor liability. If I'm not wrong, the last time we saw a question on auditor liability might be 5 years ago, 6 years ago. What if the examiner recalls there is a topic auditor liability and he puts auditor liability for 5-6 marks in December 2020 paper, and you have no knowledge? You have no knowledge. So auditor liability is such an important area. So you cannot just afford to lose auditor liability using the work of internal auditor. Right? I would not prefer that you read this article. This is very old article. Just cross this article, control environment. But I would prefer that you read the other two here. These are very important articles. Completing the audit. What sort of activities the auditor do in completing the audit? So what sort of activities the auditor do when he's completing the audit? It's a very good article. And I cannot just see students ignoring this article. Look at this article. This is an article which is coming in recent past, practice management. Practice management has become a focus area of examiner in recent past. And I will be doing this on day 4, right? Practice management. So if you want to be good on practice management, you should read this article, acceptance decision. Because in the recent past, the examiner is asking so much practice management. This is such an important article, practice management. So I hope you realize the importance of these articles. And the finalist, I would prefer no other articles beside this, right? The maximum after acceptance decision you can read After acceptance decision, the articles you can read is cross this article. Cross this article. Going concern is an old article, right? Don't read it because the going concern has changed. The reporting has changed on going concern. So you will get an old knowledge on that. Just leave it. Audit risk, leave it because you're already reading the part one. Leave this article. Leave this article. You can read this article on fraud. Read the article on fraud, right? So you should know the auditor responsibility for fraud. Read the article on forensic accounting, right? Read the article on forensic accounting. Read that as well on forensic accounting. So 2 articles from here, and you move down. Yes, I cannot just tell you not to read this. This is very, very important. You should read this. Communication with those charged with governance, such an important area for December exams. So the auditor report to those charged with governance, it is an important area for December exams. So please don't skip this. Examining evidence, ignore it. Audit working papers, ignore it. So in my list, I have 16 articles plus 5 techniques article. So my list is going up to 19. I hope you reconcile that with me. I recommended you 5 technique articles followed by 16 other articles. So 16 plus 5 is making my list up to 21, sorry. 16 plus 5 is making my list to 21. Total 21 articles, right? So you can watch the recording of the session today just to reconcile that there are total 21 articles to read out on the website of ACCA, right? I hope you give time to these articles. So is everyone clear? So have all of you got my message? Reading the book? No, stop the book. Read the articles. And after you read the articles, then go back. So I have recommended you skipping articles, right? Skip them. Now the problem is that the student will ask me, should we read this? Should we read this? Should we read this? No, if I've skipped an article, I've skipped it, right? I've just given you a list of 16 articles plus 5 technique articles, right? So please follow that list. So if I just put that on my Word file, this is the Word file I will be using on a daily basis, and I'll keep sharing this on the WhatsApp group. So in terms of the knowledge, day 1, what I have guided you. I've guided you that you should read 16 articles for the sake of knowledge. And I've guided you that you should read 5 articles for the sake of exam techniques, so that you know the exam techniques, right? So 16 articles on knowledge and 5 articles on exam techniques. I hope you've noted them down carefully. And this is how you should be going with knowledge part in terms of December exams, right? So articles over book. That's the message. Okay, move back to the presentation. I will be sharing this Word file. Whatever I write on this Word file, it will be shared with you on the WhatsApp group. Okay, moving back. Okay, any recommendable textbooks? If you still want to read textbooks, it's totally up to you. I would not say Kaplan, I would not say BPP because you will become confused. If any student is comfortable with the BPP book, follow it. If any student is comfortable with Kaplan book, follow it. Because in the last 5 weeks, you cannot change the book, right? So whichever book you are following, follow it. Because I cannot tell you to change a book in the last 5 weeks. So any recommendable textbooks, it's totally up to the student. What to revise? I've just given you a quick list of what to revise. I've recommended you some 16 articles where I foresee them in December exams, and I don't want you to take any risk, right? How to revise? The how to revise is important because a lot of time I've seen students going too much into textbooks. How to revise? How to revise? The best approach for AAA is skimming over the article or skimming over the book. But I've seen students spending too much time on books. Deep readings of books, never do deep readings. Never do deep reading of books. Don't waste time. You should spend time on practice of the past papers. Should you read the books? Yes. Should you read the articles? Yes. But just skim over them, right? I hope you know the literal meaning of the word skimming. Not deep readings, right? So just skim over the article, right? Just skim over the book. Never do the deep reading, right? Never do deep readings of books. Don't waste time. 5 weeks, 5 weeks, right? You should create a balance between knowledge and practice. You cannot give the 5 weeks to knowledge. You have to give time to knowledge and practice. I hope that's clear to all of you, right? How to revise, right? Is that clear to everyone? Okay, that's great. Okay, moving back towards presentation. Is there any need to retain or rote learn? No. We know the AAA paper, you are a manager, right? Being a manager, there is no need to retain, there is no need to rote learn. Yes, you can rote learn the safeguards if you want to. The ethical safeguards, they might help you down. So if you want to learn the safeguards, you can learn the safeguards for ethics. That's one area. Other areas you can rote learn is like knowledge areas, like auditor responsibility for fraud, or auditor responsibility for opening balances, or the auditor the importance of professional skepticism. Something like that can be rote learned, right? So is there any list you can rote learn? Is there anything you should know beforehand? uh, let's find the answer to that. Is there anything you can just rote learn? Though rote learn is a very illogical word. I don't like rote learning, right? But the students do. Is there anything you can just retain, rather, in your mindset? Retain. Uh, I would prefer, yes, there's something you can retain, like something like importance of planning and audit, or something like importance of professional skepticism, importance of professional skepticism in planning the audit, or auditor responsibility for fraud, management responsibility for fraud, management responsibility for fraud, auditor responsibility for opening balances, right? Auditor responsibility for laws and regulations, auditor and management responsibility for laws and regulations. The stages of money laundering, the role of the audit committee, in the process of audit, using the work of others, the prerequisites. Do you all know the prerequisites of using the work of others? Like independence, competence, experience, before you rely on someone's works. So something like that, right? Again, this is not an exhaustive list, because the moment I put this list, a question will come from the student. Anything else? No, this is not an exhaustive list. Let me write that. This is not an exhaustive list. I hope that will mitigate the questions coming from all of you. This is not an exhaustive list, right? But is it giving you an examples of things you can rote learn? Yes, I just mentioned one more thing, which I'm just skipping from here. Can be the safeguards for ethical threats. You can learn them. Something like that, right? So might help you. Okay, is that clear? Anyone copying things from screen? I'll be sharing this Word file with all of you, right? So still anyone taking notes from the screen, you can just take a screenshot or a snapshot. Okay, is everyone done? Can we move back? Okay, thank you. Okay, so knowledge, right? So my message on knowledge, articles over book. Has everyone got it? Knowledge, articles over book, right? Move on. Practice, the most important, because I believe it's practice to pass. I believe the more you practice, you're moving closer towards success. The more time you spend on knowledge, you're moving away from success. You have to keep a balance, and the balance have to be in favor of practice more than knowledge. So it was articles over book. Now it's the vice versa. It's the practice over knowledge. Practice over knowledge. So the more time you spend on practice, you are a better student, right? Practice. Some of the questions from the student mindset. How much to practice? Approach to practice. Should I go topic wise? Should I go year wise? How to develop the right rigor for exam paper? Are there any support material to guide me towards the right way to answer questions? How to meet the examiner expectations when practicing? Should I solve the entire kit? Do you believe some of these questions are in your mindset as well? Can you relate some of the questions with you, everyone? Out of the list of 6 questions, do you believe some of these questions are there in your mindset? So have I reproduced the questions considering the student mindsets? Okay, that's wonderful, right? Okay, let's find the answers quickly to these questions, because we need to more, focus on the March 2020 paper in the session today as well. I just want to spend 10 minutes because this is an important area. Practice. How much to practice? Uh, this is a very important question. And a lot of times students keep texting me or emailing me, how much to practice? Now, my concern to students is that when you speak of how much to practice, right? And I can just guide you that on my Word file. Practice. Practice. Number one, how much? The answer to this question is September 18, December 18. These are published questions, right? These are published papers on ACC website. Then after that is the hybrid paper, March, June 19. Then after that is a hybrid paper, September, December 19. Then after that is March 20. And after March 20, no paper has been published. How many papers can you see on the screen? September, December, March, September, March. How many questions you have in each? These are 5 papers. Multiply by 3 questions each is equal to 5 threes are 15. So these are 15 questions. This should be your first priority. You cannot enter the exam hall without attempting 15 questions on in front of your screen. Must. This is your first priority from tomorrow. From tomorrow, sit down and do these 15 questions. Must for all of you. Every single question. Now, the other question arises, is that enough? No, I'm not saying this is enough. But these 15 questions will prepare you in the better manner for December 2020 exams, because these are the papers which have the new format, 3 questions. Now, when you go behind September 18, which format of question will you see? 5 questions. From September 18 exams, we saw the new format, right? The new format of 3 questions, right? So you are going for December exams, right? Will you see the new format? Will you see the old format? So first of all, you should prepare yourself from September 18 to March 20. Now, once you're done with it, should you move towards your second priority? Yes. Your second priority is, let's put that in blue. Your second priority should be papers from June 18, move back, March 18, move back, December 17, Move back. September 18, September 17. These are hybrid papers, sorry. September, December 17. September, December 17. Then you have this hybrid paper, March, June 18. Then after December 17, you will see individual papers, June 17, December 16. And I would prefer that you stop here. You stop here. Maximum, what you can do is you can incorporate June 16. You can incorporate June 16. Now see how many papers you have in front of your screen into your second priority. You have total of 5 questions in your second priority. How many does that make? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 multiplied by 5, right? 5 multiplied by 5 is equal to how much? 25 questions. This should be your second priority. If you need any paper, I'll share that paper with you on the WhatsApp group. Don't worry about it. If you want the 16 papers, I can give you the 16 papers on the WhatsApp group. So irrespective you have these papers or not, the WhatsApp group have been created, right? The WhatsApp group have been created so I can share the papers with you, not to worry about. But how many papers you need to practice now? 15 questions. You have 15 questions, and followed by the 15 questions, you have another 25 questions. So in total, how many questions you have now? Total, you have 40 questions to practice. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. I will never prefer you do kits. I will never prefer you do kits. I will never prefer you do full kits. I would prefer that if you seriously spend time on 40 questions, you will be successful. Seriously spend time on 40 questions, right? I hope you're getting my message, everyone. Right? Now, the second question is, you practice. How many questions you practice? 40. But how would you know you're writing the right answer? How would you know you're getting the right answer? How would you know that you're writing which will enable you to pass? Now, when you are solving a question, what should you do? Right? Listen very carefully, right? I'm doing something very, very important. Listen to this very, very carefully. Now, suppose your step one. Your step one is you pick September 18. You pick September 18 question paper. You pick September 18 question paper, right? Step two, you attempted the September 18 question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, right? You attempted September 18 question number 1, 2, 3 in your register, or in your on your writing pad, or on the computer, on the Microsoft Word, whatever, right? You attempted it, right? Now you pick up the September 18, you attempted. Now once you attempted it and you wrote the answer, now how would you know your answer is good or bad? Now just before you do anything else, your step 3 should be, look at the step 3, very, very important. Read the examiner report for September 18, question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, and compare your answer with examiner report to see whether your answer contain any issues, or shortcomings highlighted by the examiner in the report. Look at the step 3. Everyone, look at the step 3. Just read it. Just read it for 1 minute. Read the examiner report for September 18, question number 1, 2, 3, and compare your answer with the examiner report. Not with the examiner answer, right? Not with the examiner answer, with the examiner report, to see whether your answer contains any shortcomings. To see whether your answer contains any shortcoming highlighted by the examiner. What if the examiner is telling students should not do this and your answer has that? Is everyone getting my point? What if the examiner report is telling students should not do this and your answer contains that? So will this step 3 help you with a self appraisal? Will this step 3 help you with a self appraisal, everyone? Will this step 3 help you with a reflection? And is this step 3 important? Is this step 3 important? A lot of times students starts to compare their answer with the examiner answer, which is technically wrong. You should compare your answer with the examiner report to see whether your answer contain any issues or shortcomings highlighted by the examiner in the report. So do you all agree this step number 3 is very, very important and help you with self-appraisal and help you with reflection? So step 4, identify your shortcomings. Identify your shortcomings in light of the examiner report, and remember not to repeat them when you attempt the December 18 paper. When you attempt the December 18 paper. Is that important? Is that important? Look at the step 4, everyone. Carefully read the step 4. Identify your shortcomings in the light of the examiner report and remember not to repeat them when you attempt the December 18 paper. Right? Now, what will you do next? Will you then pick up the December 18 paper? Then you attempt the December 18 paper, question number 1, 2, 3. Then you will read the examiner report of December 18 paper and you will compare your answer with the examiner report. Will gradually your shortcomings starts to go down. From September 18, you go to December 18, then you go to June 19, then you go to December 19, then you go to March 20. Do you believe if you continue this journey from September 18 to March 20, step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, step number 4, will this gradually help you to mitigate the shortcomings? And by the time you reach the March 2020 paper, your shortcomings might be reduced by 50%. Your shortcomings might be reduced by 75%. Is that approach understood by everyone? And do you believe this is a good approach? Because a lot of time the students, when they write the answer, they jump to the examiner answer. I will just be coming to the examiner answers. I will just be guiding you what can you do good with the examiner answer. But is everyone clear with the step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, step number 4? Will you follow this across the 40 questions? Will you follow this across the 40 questions? I would recommend all of you to read examiner reports. Read examiner reports for at least September 18, December 18, March, June 2019, September, December 2019, and March 20. I would not recommend you to read the examiner reports of the old papers. Only read examiner reports of the recent papers. Can you see the recent papers here? So when you are attempting September 18, match your answer with examiner report. December 18, match your answer with examiner report. March, June 19, match your answer with examiner report. September, December 19, match your answer with examiner report. And same happens with March 20. Do you believe this exercise will help you overcome your shortcomings? Will you be able to identify your shortcomings? So number 1, firstly, you will identify your shortcomings, and when you will then overcome them. And this will improve your prospects. This will improve your prospects of what? This will improve your prospects of 50 or 50 plus marks in AAA paper. Look at this. Is everyone clear? This is the most best strategy you can do over the next 5 weeks. Will you stick to this strategy, everyone, irrespective you're giving a paper-based exam or a computer-based exam? Right? The focus of this webinar is not the type of the format you are giving paper on. The focus of this webinar is to guide you how you can pass the AAA paper, whether you're giving AAA on a paper or you're giving AAA on a computer. Right? So is everyone clear? I've seen students struggling to pass AAA, stuck at 47, stuck at 48, stuck at 49, and they ask me, what should I do? And I reply to them, follow this approach. Because till the time you don't do a self-appraisal of yourself, how will you pass? Do you believe without doing your self-appraisal, you will pass? Can you pass without doing your self-appraisal? So is everyone clear on this strategy? So moving back, right? How much to practice? Approach to practice. How to develop the right rigor? I hope I've answered all these questions, right? How to develop the right rigor? Compare your answer with the examiner answer. Is there any support material to guide me towards the right way to answer? Support material to guide me the right way to answer? One of the support material is examiner reports. And one of the support material is the technique articles. The technique articles. How many technique articles are there to guide you to write a good answer? 5. So look at the number 4, everyone, carefully. Are there any support materials to guide me towards the right way to answer? So do you believe examiner report is the support material to guide you to right answer? And do you believe that technique articles, the 5 technique articles I recommended, is the best way to guide you to write a right answer? Is that clear to everyone? Right? So how to meet the examiner expectation? Do you believe if you meet the examiner expectation, you will pass? And to meet the examiner expectation, you have to read the examiner reports and you have to read the technique articles. If you carefully spend time on examiner reports over the next 5 weeks, and if you carefully spend time on technical articles over the next 5 weeks, you will pass. You will definitely pass. There is no excuse to that. But any student who compromise examiner reports still and read the BPP book, any student who compromise the technical article and read the BPP book, you will not pass. You will never pass because you need to change yourself, right? You need to change the approach towards the AAA paper. AAA is not a difficult paper. Your approaches have made it difficult. If you are failing the AAA paper, this is just because of your approach. This is just because of the way you study the AAA paper. You need to find the right way to study the AAA paper. I hope you're all clear. And in the last 90 minutes of this webinar, you must have got something to explore. You must have got something to think about. Am I right? So has this 90 minutes helped you so far? And we still have another 90 minutes, right? So I hope when you finish this webinar today and you go to sleep and you wake up the next morning, you have the right perspective to the AAA paper. That's much needed, right? And surely I'll be coming across a break pretty soon. Okay, moving on towards the next phenomena. March 2020 paper, in-depth analysis. This is such an important phenomena I will be doing in my second phase of my webinar today. March 2020 paper. This is the most latest paper uploaded on ACCA website because we don't have the July paper uploaded. We don't have the September paper uploaded. Otherwise, I would have done an in-depth analysis of the September paper. But the most latest paper available, I want to spend 90 minutes on that. March 2020 paper, in-depth analysis. And this will give you so much to think about. And the the way I investigate the March 2020 paper with you, in the same manner you will investigate September 18, you will investigate December 18, you will investigate June 19, you will investigate December 19, right? So I will be spending a careful time on March 2020 paper in-depth analysis. And I think after 90 minutes of this in-depth analysis, you will have an eye opener. So I hope you will not like to miss this 90 minutes, but that 90 minutes will start after the break. It's 10 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. We have been into 90 minutes of this webinar, and it's high time that you should be given a break, right? So I hope you come back into the live session after 15 minutes. So we're taking a 15 minutes break at 22:15. That is 10:15 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. I'll resume back. So I hope you will not like to miss the last part of the webinar today. Be back to the live session at 10:15 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. So currently we're having a break, and we are having a break till 10:15. We're having a break till 10:15 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time, and I'll resume at 10:15 and we'll go up to 11:35, and we'll wrap up things at 11:35 so that you have a wonderful insight of the March 2020 paper. Okay, just off to a break. Your feedback so far. How have been the session today? You joined 90 minutes ago and 90 minutes later, though it's the day one, and you still have 5 more days to come, 4 more days to come, and things will change rapidly in the next 4 days. But so far, so forth. Have you got some insights to things in terms of your preparations? Okay, thank you very much, right? And I believe the webinar has been full today. Maximum audience came today. And for that reason, a lot of students could not participate in the live audience. We have a capacity of 500 students, and all 500 students have reached today. So a lot of students were returned back, and it was first come, first serve basis. And a lot of queries about the WhatsApp group. So that will be mitigated in the next 6 to 8 hours as I connect myself to the WhatsApp. I will be responding back to your messages, right? Any question remain unattended, please do WhatsApp me. In a live webinar with 500 students, it's humanly impossible that you reply to everyone, right? So I hope you understand that. Off to a break, and I'll meet you back at 10:15 p.m. Okay, I'm muting myself, right, for the next 15 minutes, and I'll start back at 10:15 p.m. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome back after the break. I hope all of you are there. And just one confirmation, I hope all of you can hear me clearly. My voice is audible to all of you. Okay, thank you very much for that. So if you can all hear me, we are into this part 2 of the day 1. And the focus of this second part is on March 2020 paper, in-depth analysis. It will be another very important part, as I will focus on the March 2020 paper and will have an in-depth analysis of the March 2020 paper, which will really be helpful for you as you prepare for your exams coming up in December. Now, again, this is the most latest paper which is uploaded on the ACCA website, so we can only make use of it as the paper to be taken into analysis for the December 2020 exams. Now, there are so many things students don't know about the paper, and when they're reading the paper, even I'm talking about those students who are repeating the AAA paper, that they never bother about petty things, minor things in the paper, which can eventually result in you failing the AAA paper. So I just want to go over the March 2020 paper from the question number 1 to question number 3, just doing an in-depth analysis and guiding you about how you should be preparing. Okay, let's go down with this March 2020 in-depth analysis of the paper. Now, the March 2020 paper, A to Z. Insights into the March 2020 paper is that is what I will just be discussing with you. How to read, how to plan, because a lot of students even don't have an idea about that. Time management, such a frequently asked question, how you should split time and how you should complete your paper, because again, that's another matter of concern in the AAA student fraternity of not completing the paper. Reading the requirements, particularly the splits. uh, Reading the requirements, particularly the splits, the comma and the and. Students are least bothered about reading the comma and they just go in rush reading the full requirement. Understanding the marking scheme, another frequently asked question. What's the marking scheme? Which marking scheme we should follow? Though I will be covering the marking scheme on day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5 as I do particular topics. But is there anything in the marking scheme you should be aware of? I will be discussing that in journal in my next 90 minutes and much more. So let's start with A to Z of the March 2020 paper. Let's see what this 90 minutes can help you with, and how can this 90 minutes be useful for you preparing for December exams. So let's start on with the drill of the March 2020 paper. Now, I will be doing the same exercise, that I will keep referring to examiner report of the March 2020 as I show you the March 2020 question paper. So I will be looking at the examiner criticism of the March 2020, because I even encouraged you then when you solve the paper, you will reassess your answer with the examiner criticism. So I want to do the same thing, so I can give you the precedence and I can give you the guidance on which you will follow. Okay, let's start with the March 2020 paper. Okay, all of you can see the March 2020 paper in front of your screen, right? Okay, now this is the March 2020 paper, which I want you to look at carefully, and I will be using it carefully. Now, this is the March 2020 exams. And when you look at a paper, you have a total time which is 3 hours and 15 minutes. That is total 195 minutes, right? Now, this 195 minutes includes the reading time, reading and planning time, and it also includes the writing time. Now, I have guided this so many times in my previous webinar that let's start on with the March 2020 paper, insight analysis. insights, and analysis. Okay, let's start with the journey. Okay, March 2020 paper. Okay, now the first thing, right? You have 3 hours and 15 minutes, which makes it to total like 195 minutes in total. Now, in this 195 minutes, you have 3 questions and you have to do justice with the 3 questions, right? Now, I normally give a breakup to students, and those of you who have participated in my previous webinars must be having an idea of that. 1/4, 3/4, a very simple formula. The 1/4 is the time you have to spend on reading and planning, and 3/4 is the time you have to spend on writing. Okay, 1/4 of 195. You have 195 minutes, and 195 minutes multiplied by 1 divided by 4 is equal to how much? Quick answers from all of you. So I know you are using the calculators. 195 multiplied by 1 divided by 4. How much is the reading and planning time in your exam paper? Okay, that's wonderful. You have 48.75 minutes, right? So approximately you have 49 minutes of reading and planning time, right? Okay, good. Writing time, 195 minutes multiplied by 3 divided by 4 is equal to how much? How much of the writing time I have? Okay, 146 minutes. Okay, that's wonderful. So I have 146 minutes to write. I have 48 minutes or 49 minutes to read and plan the 100 marks paper. Now I have to divide these 49 minutes into question number 1, into question number 2, into question number 3. So the question number 1 is worth 50 marks. So how much time should I be giving to the question number 1? 49 minutes and half the time. Multiply by 1 divided by 2. Half the time should be going to this. What is half of 49? Okay, 24.5 minutes. So I should be giving 24.5 minutes to question number 1. And for the question number 2, I should be giving the remaining 49. Sorry, I should be giving the remaining 12 minutes and 25. 12.25 minutes and 12.25 minutes to this question. Now see how much time you have to read and plan the first question. 24 and a half minutes, right? So you need to do practice of the past papers with this time management. Now when you sit to practice from tomorrow, and you practice September 18 paper, you practice December 18 paper, you practice June 19 paper, you practice December 19 paper, and you practice March 20 paper. Will you follow this strategy of giving question number 1 24.5 minutes to read and plan? Will you give question number 2 12 minutes to read and plan? Will you give question 3 12 minutes to read and plan? So 12 minutes reading and planning is very good for question number 2. It's a very short question. 12 minutes is a good time for question 3, and 24 minutes is a good time for question number 1, considering it's a big question, right? So then you come to the writing time. You have writing time for question 1, you have writing time for question 2, you have writing time for question 3. How much time will you be allocating from 146 minutes? Now, in terms of 146 minutes, you have 146 and you divided that by 2. So that's how much time? 73 minutes. So I should be giving 73 minutes to the question number 1. Now, out of the 73 minutes, again, I have to divide this by 2. So I would technically have 36 minutes. And again, I have technically 36 minutes for the question number 3. So is everyone getting this? But you have to implement it. You have 5 weeks to implement it. You have to do this at home, then only you can do it in the actual exam scenario. But if you don't do this at home, how would you expect yourself to do this in the exam hall? Practice makes you perfect. Will you do the practice of 195 multiplied by 1 divided by 4? Will you do practice of 195 multiplied by 3 divided by 4 at home? Now understand one thing. Each question contributes to your success. Each question contributes to your success in the AAA paper, not just one, not just one. Seriously. A lot of time students think about question number one and they spend 2 hours on question number one. They spend more than 2 hours on question number one because they think only the question number one will make them pass. Can you expect to get 50 marks out of the first 50 marks question? You must be joking, right? Each question contributes to your success in the AAA paper, not just one. Do justice. Do justice with each question and give allocated time to it and wrap and move to the next question. Move to the next question when time is up, rather spending over time on one question. Read my bullet number 3. Read my bullet number 3 carefully, everyone. This is the biggest mistake you all do. Move to the next question when the time is up, rather spending over time on one question. The moment you think 73 minutes are done, wherever you are in the question number one, put a full stop, start question two. The moment you think 36 minutes are done, put a full stop on question two, go to question number three. Rather than completing the question number two, go to question number three, because there might be some easy marks in question number three, which you are compromising just because of completing the question number two. There might be some good opportunities in question number three, which you are compromising just because of completing the question number two. 73 minutes are up, leave it. Go to question number two. If you spend overtime on question number one, do answer me. If you spend overtime on question number one, are you compromising the opportunities in question number two? Are you compromising the opportunities in question number three, which can help you pass? So why you want to compromise the opportunities? Why you want to compromise the opportunities by just spending overtime on question number one, or just by spending overtime on question number two? So will all of you follow this strategy, that do justice with each question and give allocated time to it? So wherever the time is up, stop, go to the next question. So in that way, you are increasing your prospects of passing, rather than spending overtime on one question and reducing your prospects of passing. Is everyone clear? Okay, the next thing. Very, very important. Should you attempt questions in order? No. The examiner is very clear on that. The examiner writes in the examiner report that the students who started with the strongest question first, were successful. So is the examiner telling you can start with any question first? You can start with question number 2 first, you can start with question number 3 first, you can start with question number 1 first, right? Students who started with the strongest question first were successful. So can we attempt in any order? Can we attempt paper in any order? What is the answer to this question? Can we attempt paper in any order? Absolutely yes, right? Absolutely yes. So please come out of that myth and misconception that we have to do question number 1 first, then 2, then 3. No, you can do it in any order. The examiner is very relaxed on that and telling that the student who attempted the question in any order and started with the strongest one first were successful. Next, very important thing. Should we read the full should we read the requirements quickly of each question in first 5 minutes to know what each question asks, to choose the one we should start with? Read the question and then I'll take your answer. should we read the requirement quickly of each question in the first 5 minutes to know what exactly each question is asking to choose the one we should start with? So should I quickly read the question number 1 ABC, question number 2 ABC, question number 3 ABC, just to see which is easier? So in the first 5 minutes, can I take my decision of the order? So will the first 5 minutes help me to choose my order? So the first 5 minutes, practice this at home, right? Practice this at home. The first 5 minutes will help you choose, the order of the paper. Am I right? Is that right, everyone? What should be the answer? Is that right? The first 5 minutes will help you choose the order, right? So yes. Now you have to do something serious. How much time you had? You had a total time of 195 minutes minus 5 minutes, which is the time to choose the order, is equal to, you have 190 minutes, right? Now you will divide the 190 minutes into 1/4 and 3/4. 1/4, 3/4. So now what is the answer? 1/4 and 3/4, 190 minutes. Quick answers. 190, 1/4. What is the answer? No one is using the calculators? Okay, good answers. 47 minutes, 3/4. 190 minutes, 3/4. 142 minutes. Okay, now can you spread it to the question number 1, question number 2, question number 3 quickly? How much time should I give to question number 1 out of the 47 minutes? 23 minutes. Okay, wonderful. And remaining 12 minutes, and the remaining 12 minutes, right? Just rounding it off, right? Okay. How much time should I give to the question number 1 out of the 142 minutes? 71 minutes. Good. I should give 71 minutes to the question number 1. Question number 2, 35 minutes. And the question number 3, 35 minutes. So after I deducted the 5 minutes, the time I need to choose the order, can you all look at the revised formula of 190 minutes in front of your screen now? Okay, is that the perfect formula now, just after deducting the 5 minutes? Okay, so can we attempt questions in any order, everyone? We can, right? Okay, how much time we should spend in choosing the order of the questions? How much time we should spend in choosing the order of the question? The first 5 minutes. Will you deduct the first 5 minutes out of the total time of 190 minutes to plan 1/4 and 3/4? Okay, wonderful. Will you practice this way in the next 5 weeks? Will you practice this way in the next 5 weeks? Because that is how you can do it in the actual hall, right? In the actual exam hall, right? Okay, now move to the next question. We know we can do it in any order. We know we have total 190 minutes. We need to spend time on 190 allocations, so on and so forth. Now you start. Come to your exam paper. Okay, now this is your exam paper, right? You start. Okay, now what's the first thing? First 5 minutes. In the first 5 minutes, you go to the requirements, right? And you read the requirements. You come to the question number 1 requirements, and you quickly read the requirements of the question number 1, ABC, whatever they are. You go to the question number 2, which will come after several pages. You go to the question number 2. Here is the question number 2, and you read the requirements of the question number 2, and further more requirements coming here. You read them. First 5 minutes, right? Then you go to the question number 3. You read the requirements of the question number 3, and you scroll down further requirements and you read it. End of the question paper. So in the first 5 minutes, just read the requirements, and whichever requirements is easier to you, start it. Start that first. But remember, each question has a stipulated time and you have to complete that in it. Now, what you should do in the first 5 minutes when you are choosing the order of the paper, that you should write here with every question the time. So you know that when I'm doing this question, how much time I should give it. So how much time I have for question 3? Just reconfirm. We have 12 minutes to read and 35 minutes to write, right? So I will write it here. I will write 12. I will write 12 plus 35. So I can keep a watch. I can keep an eye on a watch. So firstly, I have to spend 5 minutes. Firstly, I have to spend 5 minutes on choosing which question to start with. But in the time I'm choosing the question to start with, should I mark on the question number 3 how much time I have to read the question number 3 if I choose it first? 12 minutes and 35 minutes to write. Is 12 plus 35 right? Was that the right answers? 12 plus 35, everyone remembers that? Or am I doing some mistakes? We had 12 minutes to plan the question 2 and question 3, right? And we have 35 minutes to write it. And 23 and 71 was for the question number 2. Okay, then you come to the question number 2, and same way you write on the question number 2, 12 plus 35. 12 plus 35 on question number 2, and then you move to the question number 1. And in the question number 1, how much time will you write on the question number 1, everyone? On the question number 1 here, you will write 23 minutes to read and plan it, and then a 71 minutes to write it. Will this help you to remember later how much time I should be giving to the reading and writing, rather than you recall it every time? So when you are reading the requirements in the first 5 minutes, please put the time management on every question so that later when you choose the question to start, you exactly know the time management. Is that clear to everyone? So in the first 5 minutes, choose the question to start and also put the time management of every question when you're reading the requirements. Is that clear, everyone? Okay, let's move on now. Now, suppose we start with question number 1 first, right? Now, this is the question number 1 in front of your screen. A lot of time I've seen students that they don't give very good time to the introductory page. The question number 1 starts with an introductory page. I hope you all know that, right? And the question number 1 starts with an introductory page followed by exhibits. I hope you all know that. Just make a checklist of that quickly. When you are attempting the question number 1 in exam hall, the question number 1 of 50 marks, and you're reading it. It starts first with an introductory page, and after the introductory page you have exhibits, and normally there are 5 to 6 exhibits, right? Now when you read the introductory page, what is on the introductory page? On the introductory page, it will guide you what is the time. It is telling us it is 1st of July. You are a manager in the audit department of Atlanta and Company, a firm of chartered certified accountant. You are working on the audit of the RIC group, which has the financial year end of 30th of September. So you're standing on the 1st of July. The year end is 30th September. So you are at the phase of planning. The group is listed. That's an important information. So when I'm reading it, I will just annotate it, listed entity, offering an internet television network with 10 million subscriber, so on and so forth. You have been provided with the following exhibits. So an important information I'm getting from the intro page is who I am, the name of my audit firm, and my client, and is my client listed or not. So from the first introductory page, I'm getting to know who am I, number one, name of the audit firm, the client, nature, and the client listed or not. And even at times on the very first page, introductory page, you also get to know, is it the first year audit or a recurring client? Now, the question is silent here, right? The question is not telling us whether we are doing the first year audit of Rick Group or not. So what we assume, when the question is silent, we assume this is a recurring client, right? If the examiner wants to tell you this is the first year audit, the examiner will always tell you this is the first year audit. But when the question is silent, we assume it is a recurring client. So who am I? I am the manager. What's the name of my audit firm? Atlanta. What's the client? It's a television service provider. So it's offering some television services like Netflix. It's listed. Yes, it's listed. And is it the first year audit? No, it's a recurring client because the question is silent. So is that important information I get from the introductory page? And then I get to know about the exhibits. Is everyone clear? Can we move on to exhibits now? Waiting for your answers. Okay, so introductory page and an introductory paragraph. Let's see exhibits. Ideally, there are 5 to 6 exhibits, not less, not more. Now, you have been provided with the following exhibits. Now, in the AAA paper, the exhibits are very systematic. The first exhibit will always be the requirements, and that is an email of the partner. That's by default. The second exhibit will always be the background information of the client. So these are two default exhibits, right? Background information, exhibit 2 always. The email from the partner, which contains the requirement by default. So exhibit 1 and 2 will remain the same in every paper, right? So exhibit 1 and 2 will remain same in every paper. Then you come to 3, 4, 5. Now in some past papers, there are total 5 exhibits. And in some past papers, there are total 6 exhibits. But I think 5 is a more common number. 5 is a more common number. Mostly, the exhibit number 3 contains the financial information. We know question number 1 cannot be without financial information. And the exhibit 4 and 5 contain some very particular information. The exhibit 4 and 5 always contain some very particular information on which the examiner wants you to do something. And normally, the exhibit 4 and 5 addresses a particular requirement, mostly. Normally, I've seen that the exhibit 4 and 5 is made for a requirement number B or C or D. But mostly, the exhibit number 2 and 3 is for identifying the risk of material misstatement, or is identifying the business risk, or is identifying the audit risk. So is there any systematic trends in the exhibits you should be knowing? If you practice the past papers, I guided you. What's the case? The exhibit 1 will always be what? Will always be an email, and the email containing the requirements, right? The exhibit 2 will always be the background information. The background information of whom? The audit firm or the client? The background information of the client, right? So this background information of the client means the knowledge of the business. And this knowledge of the business will help you with identifying the risky areas. Will this help you in identifying the risky areas, everyone? Whether it is a business risk, or whether it is an audit risk, or whether it is a risk of material misstatement. Am I right? Do you all agree with what I wrote in the bullet number 2? Okay. Exhibit number 3 mostly will always be not. Mostly contains the financial statements. Mostly contains the financial statements or the extracts of the financial statement. Can the extracts of the financial statements help me with identifying risky areas as well? Can the extracts of the financial statement help me identifying the risky areas like some unusual fluctuations in the financial statements or some wrong accounting policies in the financial statements, wrong accounting policies used in the financial statements? Can that be the case? Do you all agree with this? So can I find some unusual fluctuations in the financial statements given, or can I find some wrong accounting policies in the financial statements given? So is Exhibit 3 important in exam paper containing the financial statements? Okay, now come to the more important point. Exhibit 4 or Exhibit 4 and 5 or maybe 6 contains some very specific information, some very specific information, and the examiner will always give a particular requirement. The examiner will always give a particular requirement addressing the exhibits 4 or 5 or 6. So will the examiner give you any requirement putting focus on exhibits? Yes. Is everyone clear with exhibits breakup? The first exhibit will always contain what? Quick answers from all of you. The exhibit 1 will always contain what? The email, right? And the requirements. The exhibit 2 will always contain what? The background information. Wonderful. The exhibit 3 will mostly contain the financial statement. Not always, mostly. And 4, 5, or 6 can be very specific informations, right? So will you remember that? And when you practice September 18, December 18, June 19, you will see this more and less happening in the same order. Now, from the introductory page, you get to know about who you are and the name of the firm and the name of the client and the exhibits. Now, then you move towards exhibit 1. The exhibit 1. Let's see what is in the exhibit 1, right? Now, when you come to the exhibit 1, the exhibit tells you, this is an email from the partner, the exhibit 1, and the partner email is telling you that I require you to prepare a briefing note for my use. Is that default every time? In the question number 1, we need to write an answer in a briefing note format for which we have 4 marks. So in the first requirement, every time you will get to know the format. The format to answer is the briefing note, and the briefing note will always contain 4 marks, and you move on. Then you come to the requirements. Now, every time the requirement A will be on risk, whether it is a business risk or an audit risk or a risk of material misstatement. So every time the first requirement will be on risk, and I will be addressing risk in my day 2 tomorrow. So don't worry about it. So risk contains most of the marks, 24. Then see what is happening. Examiner is telling you, read all exhibits to evaluate risk. So does that mean that the risk is scattered in exhibit 2, exhibit 3, exhibit 4, and exhibit 5? So is the examiner saying, read all the exhibits to identify audit risk? Is the examiner telling you beforehand that the audit risk is scattered in all the exhibits? Am I right? So is all exhibit an important annotation, right? Okay, moving on. Using the information provided in Exhibit 4. Look at the requirement B. Using the information provided in Exhibit 4. Now, is that very particular? Is that very particular? Exhibit 4. Now, Exhibit 4 is addressing the requirement B1, B2. So the moment I'm reading the requirement and I get to know that Exhibit 4 is specifically made for B1 and B2, I should stop here and I should go down to the exhibit number 4 immediately. And on the exhibit number 4, here, I will write immediately in the exam hall B1 and B2. Annotate. So when I come to exhibit 4 later, I know that the exhibit 4 contains a very particular answer for B1 and B2. Is everyone getting that? So the moment you know there is a particular exhibit addressing a particular requirement, should I go and annotate that exhibit with B1 and B2? So later when I come to the exhibit 4, I exactly know what is to be done. Is everyone clear on that? So is exhibit 4 giving me a very particular answer of B1 and B2? Waiting for your answers, everyone. Okay, that's great. Okay, now move back. So I know the exhibit 4 contains a particular answer, right? So using the exhibit 4. Now look at the C requirement. What is the examiner telling in the C requirement? Using exhibit 5. So does that means the answer to the requirement C is in the exhibit 5? So should I go down to the exhibit 5 and put C, exhibit 5, and I put C on exhibit 5? See this exhibit 5, a very small exhibit, exhibit 5, and I put C here, C. So when I'm reading the exhibit 2, 3, 4, 5, will this help me later to recall that there is an answer for requirement C in exhibit 5 and there is an answer for requirement B in exhibit 4? So should I be reading all exhibits to identify risk? Yes. But particularly from the exhibit 4, will I get the answer for B1? And particularly from the exhibit 5, will I get the answer for C? So should you read the requirements carefully to identify whether I need to go to a particular exhibit for a certain requirement? So was the examiner using this very carefully? Look at this blue circles. All exhibits, exhibit 4, exhibit 5. How many times you annotate that carefully in your exam context? I hope you do that when you practice at home, that you carefully circle all exhibits, you carefully circle exhibit 4, you carefully circle exhibit 5, so that you know which exhibit will contribute towards writing the answer. So is annotating exhibits important, everyone? Right? So are you getting the message? So when you're reading the requirements, please read the requirements carefully, that whether you need to read a particular exhibit or you want to read all exhibits, right? That's great. Okay, now once you read the requirements and you know things, you will go down and you will start reading the case. You start reading from the background information and you keep annotating. Whatever is an important information, you keep annotating the important information and you move on. You read the exhibit 2, whatever is important in exhibit 2, you keep highlighting that and you move on. I will be drilling the specific areas tomorrow, right? So I'm just scrolling over the paper. Then you come to the exhibit 3, it contains the financial statements. A lot of time I've seen students that when they look at the financial data, you don't investigate the financial data. Now, if I am looking at the financial data as a student in the exam hall, immediately when I'm reading the exhibit 3, I will keep annotating something. Group revenue, last year the group revenue was 780. This year the group revenue is 980. So I'll just put an arrow here that the revenue is increasing. Operating profit, 70.2, 78.4. I'll put an arrow here that the group profit is going up. Okay, the profit before tax, 58.7, 60.1. I'll put an arrow here. So I remember that all the revenue profits are going up from the last year. The total assets, okay, fine. I know the total assets is given here for materiality. If I need to find any materialities, I'll use the total assets. And even if I need to find the materiality, I will be using the profit before tax. So the profit before tax number and the total asset number will help me with materialities, 60.1 and 780. Is that right? And do I know that the group revenue is increasing and the profit is increasing? And just when I'm reading the exhibit 3 and I know I need to find the risk, I know I need to find the risk and the group revenue is increasing, do I believe that revenue is overstated generally? Am I right? Revenue is overstated. So will I be skeptical that the revenue is increasing and there might be a risk that the revenue might be overstated? So should I be thinking that way when I'm reading the case? Because a lot of times students don't think that way. You are a manager, right? And when you are a manager, you should be skeptical when you're reading the exhibit on the financial statement. So can you just read the financial statements without being skeptical, everyone? Or should you be skeptical about reading the numbers? Should you be skeptical about investigating the numbers when you're going over the exhibit number 3? Should you put the arrows up and down? Will that help you? Should you put total assets materiality, profit before tax materialities? Will all such annotations help you? Okay, now one more thing, important thing, which the students don't do actually. Can you see that with the financial statement data, in front of your screen, is the examiner giving you the note numbers? Can you see these note numbers? Students are least bothered about note numbers. When the examiner is giving you a note number, that means there is a particular risk in the note number every time. That means there is a risk in revenue because there is a note number. There is a risk in the intangible assets. There is a risk in the intangible asset license, note number 2. There is a risk in goodwill, note number 3. So even before attempting the answer, at least I know there is a risk in revenue. I know there is a risk in license. I know there is a risk in goodwill because the examiner has given the note number. Remember, wherever there is a note number, the note number means there is a examiner wants your attention to be drawn towards a risk. So by looking at the note number, I will immediately think about risk of material misstatement, and I'll read the note numbers, right, in the exam paper. Is everyone clear? So will you give value to note numbers? Will you be thinking skeptically around the note numbers? Is everyone clear? Whenever you get the note numbers, every note number is a ROM. Every note number is a risk of material misstatement. Is everyone clear on that? So will you give particular attention to note numbers? So are you getting some way of reading the requirements, reading the case study in a skeptical manner, everyone? Right? So note numbers, right? So you will read the note numbers carefully, note number 1, note number 2, note number 3 given down, and you will identify the risk in the note numbers, right? Okay, exhibit number 3, financial statements. So you should know the way of reading the financial statements, increases and decreases in the numbers and particular note numbers, right? So when you're reading the financial statements in exam paper, so we were on exhibit 1. Exhibit 1 contains the format and the requirements, right? So you should carefully read the requirements. Now, when you come to the exhibit containing the financial statements, whichever exhibit that is in the exam hall. But when you are reading the exhibit containing the financial statement, what should you do? First, be skeptical. Think negative, like an auditor. And you should be carefully looking at numbers, ups and downs, whether the numbers are going up or down. Careful. Use the calculator immediately when you're reading. Pay particular attention to note numbers. Each note will be a ROM, will be a risk of material misstatement. Is that clear to everyone? So is everyone getting the way of reading an exhibit, whether it is exhibit 3 or 4 containing the financial statement? Is everyone clear how you should be spending time on an exhibit containing the financial statement? Is that clear to everyone? I'm waiting for your answers, right, everyone? Okay, so please spend a good time on reading exhibit containing the financial statement and be negative, think negative, be skeptical. That's the only way you can find problems from the exhibit containing the financial statements, right? Then you move on and you have the exhibit number 4, which contains some particular issues which needs to be addressed looking at the requirement 4, and then you move down with exhibit number 5. We'll be addressing the marking scheme for risk, right, in the class tomorrow. So don't be worried about it. We're just finding the way of reading things up, right? And you end reading. Now, once you end reading, how much time you had for reading of the question number 1? You had, I believe, 23 minutes, right? So you had 23 minutes to read the question number 1. And I think that's quite good enough. That's not bad. 23 minutes to read, right? And 71 minutes to write the answer. Is that clear to everyone? So I think 23 minutes is not bad. The way I just demonstrated in front of you that how you go down reading the exhibits, requirements, and scrolling down. I think if you practice at home, the 5 recent papers with the new format, I hope you will start fitting things in 23 minutes in terms of reading. Is that clear to everyone? So 23 minutes plus 71 minutes to write up the answer. And then you come to the question 2, and then you come to the question number 3. Now, I just want to discuss one thing very important with you, that when you're writing the answer, irrespective you're writing the answer for question number 1, or you're writing the answer for question number 2, or you're writing the answer for question number 3, there are some very important things normally you don't follow when you're writing the answer. Now, you will read the requirements, whether it's 1, whether it's 2, whether it's 3. When you come to writing the answer, that's very important. When you're writing the answer in a AAA paper, use headings. Use headings. It's very good. Use headings followed by a paragraph. And keep each para specific to one point. Specific to one point. Don't drag the para. Don't drag the para like don't drag a para like 6 to 7 sentences. Don't write a very long paras. Rather, keep each para to maximum 4 sentences long, and if needed, break it. If needed to go beyond 4 sentences, break your para. See, you need to make your presentation better. Right? So a lot of time when you are attempting a theoretical paper, the theoretical paper relies on presentation. You need to use headings when you're answering your question, right? You need to approach a paragraph which is a reasonable paragraph. I've seen students that they don't break paragraphs. I've seen students that they don't break paragraphs and they keep writing. Whenever you think you have developed a point, break a paragraph. I'll demonstrate that in day 2 when I write the answer for risk. Break the answer. So if you follow a heading structure followed by a paragraph and keep each paragraph reasonable rather than just dragging up your paragraph, it will be very, very good when you're writing up the answers, right? So should you use headings across the 100 marks paper? Yes. Should you use headings for an answer on ethical issues? Yes. Should you use headings for an answer on risk? Yes. Should you use headings for an answer on any other topic like quality control? Yes. Should you use headings for answering a question on reporting? Yes. So prefer using headings and paragraphs wherever possible in the AAA paper, because that's a very good way of presenting your answer. Okay, now just one last thing before we move towards the wrapping up phase. I was just looking at the criticism of the examiner on the March 2020 paper. You just saw a typical March 20 paper consisting of 3 questions, the question number 1 being the longest one, then 2, then 3. And I hope you got a way of the time management, everyone. I hope you got the way of splitting your time. I hope you got a way of starting with any question of your choice. And I hope you got a methodology of giving justice to every question rather than spending overtime on one question. I hope you got these strong messages right in the last 30 minutes. Now, I just want to spend some time on the criticism because that might help you with the day 2, day 3, day 4, and might really open your mindset about where you might be going wrong if you are failing since last few attempts of the AAA paper. Now, when I saw the criticism of the examiner, I split that in some headings. The first criticism of the examiner is the grip on IFRS. The examiner is very vocal, saying that the examination requires a sound understanding of the syllabus and the sound understanding of your knowledge from strategic business reporting. Candidates should note that the accounting standards listed within the SPR syllabus are examinable. That is the reason that it is always recommended that you do the AAA paper after SBR or with SPR. You cannot say, okay, I'll do the AAA paper first and do the SPR after. No, you have to do the SPR paper first, followed by AAA, so that you have a sound accounting knowledge. So, can you pass the AAA paper without sound accounting knowledge? Never. So, examiner is very critical that you need to have a sound knowledge of the accounting standards. Then next, marks are awarded at the AAA level for the application of the knowledge to a given scenario where candidates demonstrates an understanding of the issue presented. Can you just write a rote learn standard? Can you just write a rote learn IFRS? No. Examiner is saying that you need to demonstrate your knowledge. You need to apply your knowledge to a given scenario. You cannot just start to write the rote learn IFRS 2. You cannot just start to write the rote learn IS 36. You cannot just start to write the rote learn IS 38. You need to think about the accounting problem in the case study so that you can tailor your answer. You can adapt your answer to the circumstances. You cannot just start to write the generic intangible assets. You need to be very particular about the problem with the intangible asset in the case study. You cannot just start to write a generic impairment. You need to see the case study, whether the impairment review was performed or not. If the impairment review was performed, then what's wrong? Has the recoverable amount rightly determined or not? So you need to be very particular. So if the question is saying no impairment review has been performed, the answer will be different, right? I hope you agree. But if the question says an impairment review has been performed, the answer will be different. But you cannot have just one answer of impairment and you fit that in both equations. Do you all understand? Impairment review has not been performed is a different situation, and the impairment review was not performed is a different situation. But can you write one single answer in both? Are you getting my point, everyone? I'm waiting for your answers. So you need to adapt, right? And the students don't. The students have just rote learn intangible assets. The students have just rote learn impairment. The students have just rote learn the development cost, and whatever comes around development cost, the moment they see the word development cost, they start to write everything. The moment they see the word impairment, they start to write everything. Look at the case, what's happening right or wrong with impairment. Look at the case, what's happening right or wrong with development cost. Look at the case, what is happening right and wrong with the intangible assets. So can we have the same answer to the situation 1? Impairment review was not performed. And situation number 2, the impairment review was performed. Can I have the same way of writing the answer? No, we don't need to provide the IFRS references. We don't need to provide the references to the accounting standards. The examiner negate that. I will be covering that in my day 2 tomorrow. No need to refer to accounting standards, right? You just need to be focal about the way you present your answer. I'll just give you an example after 5 minutes of what I'm trying to justify. But you will be awarded marks for the application of the knowledge. 3, Candidates should ensure they are fully conversant with the financial reporting standards covered by SPR to maximize their ability to effectively identify audit risks that may arise from the issues and then effectively write procedures to address those risks. So those students who are fully conversant with SPR, they can be capable of identifying the risk, because the risk is a wrong accounting treatment. The risk is that the accounting treatment has not been followed in the right manner. So those students who are conversant in SPR are more sound in identifying the audit risk, or are more sound in writing an effective procedure, because the procedures in AAA comes around accounting issues like government grant, like segmental reporting, like discontinued operations, like earning per share, like government grant. So the procedures also comes on accounting issues, right? So the more conversant you are on the SPR, the better you are. So the grip on IFRS is one criticism of the examiner. Move on to the other criticism from the March 20 report. SPR understanding. Second, candidates needs to ensure they have a good understanding of SPR, and they should know the full list of the examinable standards which they have covered in the SPR, and they're all relevant to the AAA paper. So you should know your SPR, you should have covered all the accounting standards, right? And you should go about it. Briefing note. Um, it should be noted that only a brief introduction is required when you're writing a briefing note, and time should not be spent in writing half a page introduction or lengthy conclusions. How many times in my previous webinar I have mentioned this? So what is the examiner telling you about briefing note? Should you write half a page introduction when you're writing the briefing note? No. Should you write half a page conclusion when you're writing a briefing note? No. So examiner is saying a briefing note should contain a brief introduction. A briefing note should contain a brief conclusion. It should not contain a conclusion or an introduction which is going on half a page. And then the examiner is saying for a structured, well presented answer, simple headed paragraph are enough to score these marks. So should you have proper headings in a briefing note? Should you have proper headed paragraphs in a briefing note to score most of your marks? And the examiner is again saying candidates need not to be concerned with spending time underlining or numbering headings so long as it is clear which question is being attempted. So don't waste time underlining requirements or numbering requirements unless and until it's very clear which question you are attempting. So examiner is giving you some basic guidance about where you can save your time. These presentations are with you, right? You can download these presentations, take a printout and follow them, and try to identify the weak areas where you might be struggling in AAA. For clarity marks, the marker will consider whether they understood the candidate's response and discussions, and the discussion satisfied the question requirement. So if the marker understands what you wrote, you will be getting the clarity marks. There is one clarity mark, right? In the 4 marks. You have 4 professional marks, right? So in the 4 professional marks, 1 mark is for clarity. So if the marker is able to understand what you are writing, you will be getting that 1 clarity marks. Otherwise, you will not be getting this clarity marks out of the 4 marks. And mostly the examiner says the students score 3 out of 4, not 4 out of 4. So please be very careful about briefing note. I will be guiding you about how to write a briefing note in day 2 tomorrow, because on day 2, I will be writing the answer for risk. So I will be giving you a formation of the briefing note tomorrow and how you can score more marks on briefing note when I start to drill the day 2 tomorrow. So please be sure about how you structure a briefing note, and I will be giving you a practical example of that tomorrow. Now, moving on from briefing notes, candidates will not be penalized for poor spelling or grammar. That's a frequently asked question. So examiner is saying, no, you will not be penalized for poor spellings, grammar, not an issue. Okay, question on risk, something very important, and I will be addressing that tomorrow. Journal consolidation risk, intercompany eliminations, disclosure requirements for listed entities were all deemed speculative and did not receive credit. The moment you see in the March 2020 paper, right here, the moment you see in front of your screen the March 2020 paper, and you know the name of the company is Rick Group. Rick Group. You've not read Exhibit 1, you've not read Exhibit 2, you've not read Exhibit 3, you've not read Exhibit 4, and you saw, oh, this is a group, and this group is listed. Okay, this group is listed. This is a group, a listed group, and they have members, they have subscription members in 8 countries. 8 countries. And you are a weak student, you have not read the case study, and you say, oh, this is such an easy paper this time, I'll pass the AAA paper this time, because the examiner is telling me in the case study, the examiner is telling me in the case study to the question number 1, that number 1, it is a group. Wonderful. Number 2, the examiner is telling me it's listed. Number 3, it's telling me that the sales are made in 8 countries. The sales are made in 8 countries. And oh, I say, oh, group, I know everything about group. I know IFRS 3, I know IFRS 10, and without even reading the case, I'll start to write all risk. Risk. Intercompany balances. Intercompany balances are not eliminated. And I'm so happy examiner will give me 2 marks on that if I wrote it properly. Risk number 2, in the group, see what the examiner was telling us in this presentation. Journal consolidation risk, intercompany eliminations, disclosures required for listed entities were deemed speculative. Now, the moment you saw, oh, it's a group, and you start to speak of the intercompany balances not eliminated, and you say, oh, this is a risk. Listed company, and you think, oh, this is a listed company, risk, disclosures not made, disclosures not given. Sales are made in 21. Sales are made in 8 countries. Okay, foreign currency. Translation risk. Translation risk, using wrong exchange rates. And you come happily out of the exam hall, oh, I got 6 marks, 2 on group, 2 on listed, 2 on sales made in 8 countries. The examiner is saying these are all deemed speculative. Should you read the exhibit number 2 for the background information of the group before you decide whether the group deals with other companies or not? What if there are no transactions between the subsidiaries? There are no buyings and sellings between the subsidiaries. Then how will intercompany balances come in? What if the question is mentioning in the exhibit number 2 that all disclosures are made by the finance director? Then how is risk of disclosure not given appropriate? So should you read the case or just highlight a point and convert that into a speculative risk? Is everyone getting the perspective of the examiner? How many times you do it? You look at the word group and you start to speak of the entire knowledge you have about IFRS 3, IFRS 10. The moment you look at the word listed and you start to speak of all journal knowledge. The moment you think about 8 countries and you start to speak about all knowledge you have about IS 21. Am I right? Do you do that? Honestly? Risk is a topic for class tomorrow, right? I'm waiting for your answers. How many of you do this? Is the examiner happy with that? Is the examiner happy with that? Are you making examiner happy or sad? I will be putting this in perspective tomorrow, because the examiner is saying journal consolidation risk, intercompany eliminations, disclosure required for listed companies were all deemed speculative and did not receive credit. He's addressing the question number 1 of the March 20 paper, right? And in the March 20 paper, the company was listed. In the March 20 paper, it was a group. And the student just look at the word group and they react. Move on. Next point of concern. There were no evidence within the question that the group companies traded with each other. Look at this line. Look at this line. There were no evidence within the question that group companies traded with each other. Then how can you talk about intercompany elimination? Think. I don't know where your mind gets lost in the exam hall. Where your mind gets lost in the exam hall. See, what is the examiner telling you? Examiner is saying there was no evidence within the case that there were any trading between the companies other than other between each other, or that the group was recently listed. Yes, if the group was recently listed, then the risk of disclosure was a very valid point. Risk of disclosure was a very valid point, because if the group was recently listed, they will have less knowledge about the disclosures. They will have less knowledge about the disclosures. But if the group is listed for last 10 years, for last 5 years, do you believe the risk of disclosure arises? But if the group was recently listed, do you believe there is a risk that they will do mistakes? There is a risk that they will not do the proper disclosures. So should you read the case carefully? Should you read the case carefully, everyone? So please, I will be addressing this on my day 2 tomorrow, that when a question comes on risk, why you people write so speculative risk? And what is the definition of a speculative risk? So please wait for more on this for day 2. Candidates are advised to use the details of the specific scenario given. Please use the details of the specific scenario given and discuss the risk accordingly to get marks. Specific, not hypothetical. And I will be coming across this very hardly tomorrow, because I believe students are so much into hypothetical risk. Students are so much into speculative risk that they refrain from the specific details given in the scenario. So this is March 2020 criticism, right, on risk, and we have risk coming tomorrow. Moving on. Few of the last criticism before we wind up the day today. Just noting the journal accounting treatment with no case specific conversion. I was just discussing that, right? I will be demonstrating that on my day 2, day 3, and day 4. Just noting the journal accounting treatment with no case specific conversion. A further area that demonstrated a lack of application to the scenario surrounded the impairment of goodwill performed by the group on an annual basis. In the question, it was written that the impairment of the goodwill was performed. And the examiner is saying a number of candidates discussed the journal treatment of goodwill that is to be tested for impairment on the annual basis, and that the management had not tested impairment, and therefore concluding on the financial statement impact that the goodwill would be overstated. The question is telling you that the management has performed impairment of goodwill on an annual basis. See, has the group performed impairment of goodwill on an annual basis? Everyone, do you agree with the point number 1 given by the examiner? So the examiner is saying that the impairment of the goodwill was performed by the group on the annual basis, but still the student is writing this. Now, who is to be blamed? The examiner or the student? When the goodwill has been tested for impairment, why are you criticizing? Right? So when the examiner is saying that the goodwill has been reviewed for impairment, and you're writing a journal treatment of impairment, and you're saying, what if the goodwill has not been tested for impairment? Even though the examiner is telling you that the goodwill has been tested for impairment, still you are saying, what if it's not tested? Then who is to blame? Your absent mindset in the exam hall, or the examiner question paper? Who is to be blamed here? So I'll be coming across such blunders tomorrow, right? Tomorrow I have a class on business risk, right? And tomorrow I have a class on ROM. So I will be addressing this particular criticism very, very carefully tomorrow. But just please ensure you have a printout of these criticisms for the session tomorrow. The question clearly referred to the group correctly performing the annual impairment reviews. So the question was telling you that the group has correctly performed the impairment review, but had not recognized impairment due to a strong performance. So because they had a strong performance, so the group has not recognized any impairment. Have they performed an impairment review? Yes. But have they recognized any impairment? No, because they had a strong performance. So there might be some problems with not recognized, which I will be discussing tomorrow. But you cannot just write a journal treatment of impairment when the management is telling you that we have performed the impairment review. The key issue here was the indicator of impairment within the foreign subsidiary and the impact this would have on impairment review performed. Even though the group was telling you that we had strong performance, one of the subsidiary was loss making. Now, if one of the subsidiary is loss making, should they recognize impairment of goodwill relating to the subsidiary which is loss making? So you should have highlighted that. The group had a strong performance, agree, but one of the subsidiary became loss making. So should they recognize impairment of goodwill relating to that subsidiary, which the management wasn't? So you should be very focused. You should be very particular. So I hope you read these examiner reports critically of every paper you solve at home, because there is so much you can learn from examiner criticism. So you will first answer your question yourself, and then you will compare your answer with the examiner report so that you know that where are you lacking. And tomorrow we have a class on business risk and ROM, and I will tell you how you write journally impairment, how you twist your answer in different circumstances on impairment, so that you get a better understanding of the criticism which is right in front of your screen. So just wait for more clarity on this tomorrow. Okay, moving towards few of the last things. Read requirements carefully, which you don't. Overall, candidates would be advised to read the requirements carefully. Students don't read requirements carefully. Once I do the day 2 tomorrow, and then day 3, day 4, day 5, where we have particular topics to be addressed, and I will be reading particular requirements with you, I will just be giving you the right way of reading requirements and telling you what student do wrong when they're reading requirements, right? So I will be spending a careful time on that as well tomorrow. So don't be worried about that. We will come across reading of requirements, and you will get the right mindset of reading the requirements, right? Just one minute. Okay. The next point of concern of examiner is that good exam technique. Candidates that demonstrated good techniques in calculating materiality, in identifying the audit risk in the scenario, discuss the relevant accounting treatment, and finally the impact have scored well. So examiner always prefer that, right? That you calculate materiality, you discuss the accounting treatment, and you identify the impact on the financial statement. And that is a good technique for audit risk. So number 1, calculate materiality. Number 2, discuss the accounting treatment. Number 3, discuss the impact on the financial statement. If you do these 3 things, examiner is very happy with you. So when you're attempting a question on audit risk or ROM, examiner says this is the good exam technique, right? So this is all to be discussed, right? All to be discussed. We're just creating mindsets. Audit procedures. Again, examiner about the audit procedures says there were 6 marks on audit procedures, which should be instructed on the component audit to perform on the sale of group property. Overall, candidates scored well. Overall, candidates scored well, yet there were instances that were disappointing to note, such as a significant number of students suggesting procedures to check the physical existence of the property, even though the property was sold, or to verify the asset was remaining in the fixed asset register, despite being that the asset was sold to the CEO prior to the year end. The question is telling you that the asset has been sold, and you are still saying check the physical existence of the asset. I think this is a moment to laugh. if you give such answers. The examiner is telling you that the asset has been sold, and you're writing in the exam paper, check the physical existence of the asset. I hope you appreciate this point. I hope you appreciate how critical the examiner is on your problems in exam paper. I don't know what really happens to you in exam hall, that you do such blunders which then becomes examiner criticisms. So please be focal. Please be focal. Candidates that applied good techniques to procedure, such as stating what procedure they would perform along with purpose, scored well. What procedure will they perform with purpose? I hope you remember my previous webinars. What procedures they will perform along with purpose, right? Procedure with purpose. I need to, I would be going down with procedure with purpose. In my previous webinars, I've covered procedures with purpose, right? Procedure they would perform with purpose. I hope you remember my mnemonic. I used to use ASP, action, source, purpose, that a procedure should start with action, source, and purpose. If your procedure has an action, it has a source, it has a purpose, that's a good procedure. You should read the exam technique article part 4, which is on audit procedures, right? Okay, just to bring things to end, we just went over time. I hope you had a productive session today. It was just an introductory day 1, which is to set your right strategies. I hope you got some messages, you got some important statements of the tutor today, which will really help you devise a good strategy for your December exams. I hope you got the way to practice things, you got the way to get knowledge, you got the way to read and plan your questions, the time management. I hope you got some important learnings from the day 1. You should put them down on a piece of paper and you should stick to them, because from tomorrow onwards, we will be going into specific topics. Tomorrow we have business risk and ROM. Then on the day 3, we have the ethical and professional issues. On day 4, we have practice management. And on day 5, we have reporting. So the day 1 was a journal day where we just spelled out important things which will help you prepare for your exams in December. I hope you had an overall productive day today. I will be sharing the Word file used in my session today with you on the WhatsApp group, and any resources you have missed, I will be sharing that on the WhatsApp group as well. So please do join me for the live day 2 tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. And just before I end my session, I hope that you had a good session today. If I can just have a quick feedback from you in just like a minute. And please, again, there were lots of queries which I couldn't answer. Please put them on the WhatsApp group so I can respond to your queries, because I'm eager into that to respond to your queries. Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for that feedback. Have a nice day, and please come back tomorrow live for the day 2. And the day 2 would be very, very important as we get into a very critical area, which is risk. And there is so much criticism of the examiner to address in the area of risk, just like we got today on impairment and much more. So you will have a very insightful day tomorrow. So do join the live webinar at 8:30 p.m. I'll see you then. Have a nice day. Study effectively for your exams. It's time to sign off from the day 1 of the AAA Practice to Pass webinar for December 2020 exams being organized by ACCA Pakistan. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Goodbye. This is your tutor, Kashif Kamran, signing off from the day 1. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz, all of you.